Hello, Moons of Jupiter. I'm Elmushterri, that means Jupiter in Arabic. I'm an animation student and Hema fencer. Before I get into it, here are the fan arts the Moons have made for me. I want to do fan art first just so people know they're appreciated. Neko is the silliest on YouTube drew this adorable little headshot, or is this a bust shot? I don't like calling it that, so I'll call it a chest upward drawing of my old Sona. So cute. I love your style. Thank you. Also, Star Night Moth sent me this adorable fan art and gave me this awesome varsity looking jacket, which I would love to have in real life, and gave me a sword, which I love, makes it more accurate. Thank you so much. If anyone wants to post fan art, this is my Sona Jupiter, or Elmushterri because it means the same thing. So, I've done PJ Masks, Paw Patrol, and Octonauts if they were for young adults, so now Wild Kratts, because basically everyone requested it. I watched PJ Masks as a kid, so I knew what to do with that, but not Wild Kratts, so I had to do some homework. Apparently, the Kratts, Chris Kratt and Martin Kratt, are two real men who are a biologist and a zoologist. They had this animal-based show in the 90s called Zaboomafoo, but then later were animated. I didn't grow up with either, but I'm going to try and do them justice. It's a little weird that I'm working on, two real men rather than fictional characters, but most people advise me to just kinda pretend these guys aren't based off of anyone for the rewrite. The premise of the show is that these two brothers and their crew go around the globe to save the animals or generally learn from them. There's information about animals in each episode, some of which I was really impressed with. For example, in the first episode, they talk about how turtles lay their eggs in the same area as crocodiles so that the mother crocodile will accidentally also protect the turtle eggs. Also, along the way, there are villains who try to stop the Kratts or are generally trying to kidnap animals either to eat, make into clothes, or mind control. It's pretty dark already for a kid's show. The two main characters, Martin and Chris Kratt, have creature power suits built by their friend Aviva. These suits take discs with animal powers on them, and then when they touch the animal the disc corresponds to, they gain the powers of the animal. And the way they look when the creature power suits are activated, that looks, I think it needs a little work. It's good for a kid's show. I looked up Wild Kratts fan art and I realized people don't tend to draw them in creature form nearly as much as just normal human form. But I do see y'all drawing them in cat furry forms frequently. I see you, catboy enjoyers, you don't fool me. And honestly, it's likely because the creature forms do look a little bit silly. And that's not a terrible thing, by the way. It is a kid's show. But I'm trying to make something for young adults. So I was trying to turn this show into something more adult. But I ran into the problem of the premise is already pretty adult. It's just played for kids. And also, the characters are already adults. A good way to make shows feel more mature, for example what I did with the PJ Masks, is to make the characters adults, or teenagers at least. But they already are. And I don't dislike their costumes like I did with the Octonauts, they look fine. I could jazz up the power suits, but honestly these people look fine for an adult show because they are just dressed like adults. Basically, I have to find a way to change the tone and style without changing the premise or costumes too much. For a bit, I considered making it into a fantasy where they could transform due to spirits or something like wolfwalkers, but that changes everything, the whole modern premise of animal exploitation in the modern day. Plus, the concept of creature power suits is already great, but I do have a few ideas with what could happen to them. I even tried drawing the Kratt brothers in new costumes, but man, they look fine. This is how they should look, except for how the creature power suits look when transformed, but I'll get to that. So instead of making full new body outfits for the gang, I'm going to try something slightly different. Instead of being in the current world, the rewrite is placed further ahead in the future. It's not looking good. The world is more polluted, and the rich have decided to do weird things with animals, like employing animals, making living fashion out of animals, or cooking endangered... Well, okay, some of those are already happening. However, one good thing is that robotic prosthetics aren't uncommon. That'll come into it. So let's go over the characters. I realize I drew the brothers separately, but talk about them together, so you're gonna have to bear with me on how I lay these out. Chris and Martin Kratt are the Kratt brothers. In the real show, they're a biologist and a zoologist, and they are that in real life too. But anyway, canonically, these two knew one of the main villains when they were kids. So, to put a huge twist on the show, I'm making the Kratts brothers formerly corrupt people. They were working with Zach. He's one of the villains, if you don't know. They exploited animals, like they basically even farmed the resources and animals needed for Aviva to even create the prototypes for the power suits. I know, that sounds really bad, and I understand people wouldn't want the Kratt brothers, real-life animal lovers and fictional animal lovers, to be the ones who hurt the animals. But one, this is fictional. Two, double fictional, considering this is just my rewrite. Plus, it sends a good message. Even corrupt people and people who have hurt others in the past have to change their bad ways. They can't just take the excuse of, well, I'm already bad, so I may as well keep being bad. They have to improve, and depending, of course, on what they've done, heavy emphasis on depending on what they did. It's good to let people change, and story-wise, it adds to some interest to have the brothers not have tragic backstories, but to have induced tragic backstories onto other people or animals. So the younger brother is Chris Kratt. He is the biologist. He's more organized and careful than Martin, but he's still definitely silly and enjoys screwing around outdoors. He supposedly prefers climbing over swimming and is kind of meant to be better at it than Martin, but in the show, they kind of look the same when they're climbing. Then there's Martin Kratt, the older brother. He's more playful and names all the animals the gang come across. He's the zoologist and is better at swimming than climbing. The brothers were in university when they met Aviva and Zach, and the main project they had together was the creature power suits. The creature power suits at that time weren't meant to turn you into something that looks like the actual animal, just to give you the powers relative to what it has. Like how ants are pretty strong, for ants. So an ant power would make you really strong, say. Obviously, there's more than strength, but then something kinda insane happened. The two were perhaps working on capturing a large animal like a bear or a crocodile or something, and it heavily injured them. By heavily injured, I mean to save their lives, they had to have the creature power suits basically added onto their bodies, kind of like Iron Man and his Iron Man core thing. I don't really watch Marvel movies. And remember how I said this world has way more futuristic tech? That's very important to the way the actual current power suits work. They use discs from each creature in tandem with their DNA to make the Kratts' bodies actually change. In the show, it looks like they're wearing furry suits, but then sometimes they look like this, and those aren't cybernetic feathers. Those seem to be real, so maybe their bodies actually do change, but they always keep their eyes, which is interesting, so that's always going to be the same here. I know that sounds like a really big change, to make the main characters kinda cyborgs and kinda shapeshifters, but otherwise my show would be way too similar to the original, and this gives it a slightly more mature twist. So them having altered bodies is what allows them to fully transform, while the old creature power suits Aviva made only kinda partially transform you. As for the whole miniaturizer thing, I don't know if I can keep that, but maybe the robot bodies can shift quite small and the whole DNA stuff does the rest, but I won't focus on it. I should probably talk about their crew. The Kratts work in a giant tortoise-shaped ship called the Tortuga, operated by their co-workers and friends Aviva, Jimmy, and Koki. Aviva is an inventor, Jimmy is a pilot, and Koki is also an inventor and a communications specialist. Okay, so maybe this is already a thing, but due to overlap, I'm gonna make Aviva the beep boop, scribble down, mass side of inventing, and Koki the actually putting together the metal parts of inventing. Okay, so the most important crew member, I'd say, is Aviva, because in canon, she makes the creature power suits, but like I said, I wanted to make it so that it's shared, so she conceptualized the suits, but Koki actually put them together. And then, when the Kratts brothers' human bodies got partially destroyed, Aviva and Koki did the same thing. They put the brothers back together. You may be asking, what does Jimmy do? Nothing, like in the real show. I'm kidding. Back to Aviva in specific. Aviva is obviously intelligent and awesome, and unfortunately it's a kid's show, so she's kinda just cool and awesome and nice. But sometimes for the plot, she can suddenly become really stubborn or angry, like in the first episode where she basically called all crocodiles monsters until she saw crocodiles being nice. In my show, she's going to be the same way, but with more extroversion. She really enjoys talking to people, especially about her inventions. The person who gets talked to the most is Koki, because obviously Koki is the one realizing Aviva's inventions. Aviva is more romantic and more of a fantasizer than Koki, by which I mean she dreams up inventions that are not physically possible very often. Next is Koki, who is more introverted and sarcastic. In the show, she has the same sort of until the plot demands it kind of personality as Aviva, but she's also very evidence-based and skeptical. Also, I don't know why, but I think she'd be from a rich family and be someone who's been to loads of classy parties and doesn't like any of them, but enjoys hanging out with these losers. A lot of people say Jimmy would be the rich kid, but I don't think so. Also, why doesn't she get a surname? The others get surnames. Next is Jimmy. He kinda did nothing for the first season, but he's the pilot and the guy who uses the transportation device, aka he presses a button. He's laid back, and for some reason he was like a little misogynistic at first, but then he like recovered from it. He doesn't really do the whole animal adventure thing, so he stays in the ship most of the time. Anyway, the villains. There's Zach Varmitek. Why is his surname basically a company name, like Varmitek? He's a villain who creates mind control technology and robots. Big coincidence that his surname happens to be about tech, huh? Shouldn't that be his company name? I'll probably rename him to like Zach Varman or something. Like, say if we gave the I the French pronunciation. I'm probably incorrect, but you know what I mean. It still sounds weird, but not as weird as his surname having the word tech in it as if he's the product. He actually knew the Kratts and Aviva as a kid when he met her in science camp. I wasn't aware science camp was a thing. This is where the Kratts used to be bad guys thing comes from. These guys all met, in my AU at least, and were influenced into doing wrong instead of right. They all probably took similar courses as each other at university. In fact, Zach probably helped Aviva and Koki recreate the brothers' bodies for them. So we can definitely use that for angst, fighting against one of the people who helped put you back together. So what Zach does in the show is he captures and then mind controls animals to do tasks for him, and it's portrayed in a silly manner with the animals wearing little mind control hats and outfits, but I'm sure we can make it look scarier and darker. And to make it look worse, we're further in the future, remember? A lot of people in society are kind of okay with him doing that. Maybe he even sells his products for people to use. My idea for why he screwed up is that when he was younger, people bullied him for being small and weak, and that gave him some sort of complex, and now he makes animals work for him for his intellect. I mean, with his intellect. Also, apparently, he and Aviva used to fence. I used to fence once, like a week ago. So we're definitely including that. He can definitely... Oh, true. That's my alarm. I have to go take a cake out of the oven. Not to brag. I just ate a cake, so there. So yeah, Aviva and Zach used to fence. In my rewrite, Zach would definitely do evil épée, Olympic fencing. Meanwhile, Aviva would do good, true HEMA fencing. Boo, Olympic fencing, boo. I'm kidding, all fencing is great. And also, in terms of shipping, I won't ship the brothers with anyone because they are real, but I feel like Aviva and Zach used to have something as kids. Not a relationship, but I mean, like, because they used to know each other, they have a history, and they have an unfriendly rivalry going on today, but they think about each other in some kind of way because they also knew each other in university. And they trauma bonded over watching two of their friends get torn apart and then having to conceptualize their new bodies, basically. Next is the villain Danita Donata. All these names are super interesting. She's a famous fashion designer who uses live animals in her fashion. Killing animals for fashion is bad enough, but she actually keeps them alive using a freezing machine in the show, but I'm just gonna say like a cryogenic machine. However, I can't pretend she isn't the best looking character. Like, are you kidding? She looks great. Also, anytime an artist draws her without her wrinkles, an angel puts on the best show this town's ever seen. Danita thinks animals are gorgeous, and who wouldn't? The problem is she uses that instead of just enjoying it. I imagine she was in the same circles as Koki when they were younger, both in the high-class, rich areas. Lastly, well, not technically lastly, because there are other villains, but these two didn't get much attention, and this guy is literally just a construction worker, he has zero other design, is Gaston Gourmand. He's a chef who lost his license in the show due to his cooking of endangered animals. In my show, I don't think he would have lost his license over this. It would probably be something allowed in this dystopia. He has a very strong sense of smell and lots of wilderness knowledge, and he, I think, would cause the most damage in terms of what he actually does in a show. In the show, Zach temporarily mind controls animals. Danita temporarily freezes them, but Gourmand's intention is to cook the animal, which is permanent. He's also the only villain who never gets to complete his goal in the show at all. I have a small idea about this. Since my show is darker, there would probably be an episode where the gang is trying their hardest to save a certain endangered animal from Gourmand, but at the very end, somehow the Kratts get trapped or delayed, and Gourmand actually gets to cook the animal. And the Kratts only get there in time to see this. The animal is served up on the plate and the Kratts just watch. Because the villain should have a couple wins if we want to establish them as actual threats in the show. But anyway, what would happen in this show? Well, people have made loads of AUs to show possibilities. For example, For example, Little Critter Eli on Tumblr created the famous reprogrammed AU, where Chris's creature power suit is used by their original villain character, Diego, to mind control him and use his animal powers for evil. Love their art style, it's very canon looking, good job to the artist. You all know I love a good mind control arc, I love my Hunter / Darcy / Catra / Bipper / Guntech / there are so many mind control instances in cartoon shows. Who am I forgetting? I also do a lot of mind control arcs. I think they're just a great way to bring angst to the show. But though I do it a lot, Zach in the show literally has mind control technology, so it wouldn't even be a far-fetched idea. So I wouldn't have to make a character of my own for it. Plus, that would be too much of a copy of Eli's AU already. So if anyone's getting mind controlled, it's being done by Zach to get back at Aviva specifically. Like, imagine him getting the brothers to work for him, and it's an episode or arc where the Tortuga gang have to save them, and Aviva struggles with it the most because it's partially her technology. In one post, I cannot say this name, Little Critter Eli says the Wild Kratts villains aren't competent enough to do something, so I thought, well, in my young adult show, they should be competent enough. Let's make them competent. Okay, season 1 would kind of be like the show as it is, the Kratts stopping the way more competent villains. But that's not the Kratts' main goal. Since what the villains are doing in this dystopian world is legal, the Kratts are always trying to secretly find dirt on the villains to get them actually put in jail for something the authorities will really care about. In season 2, you start to learn about the gang's history more, like about Aviva and Zach, Koki and Danita, and since I haven't done it already, I'll pair up Jimmy and Gourmand as foils of some sort. Maybe Jimmy also cooks. Heck, maybe Jimmy's a vegetarian. Too bad I already drew him eating a pepperoni pizza. Maybe he just cooks ethically or raises chickens or something. Yeah, maybe that's what Jimmy does. He puts money towards running ethical farms. And then a turning point in season 2 is the first time one of the creature power suits, or just the Kratts' mechanical body parts, malfunctions or starts glitching on them. Chris stays too long in an animal form and begins to act like the animal itself instead of just having the powers. He is saved in the end, but Aviva and Koki have to begin to investigate what's going on with the suits. In season 3, things get more serious as villains start to come together to take down the In season 3, things get more serious as the villains start to come together to take down the Tortuga gang in general. They probably try to split the gang up and succeed in some kind of way. In fact, they probably made the brothers have some kind of huge argument to split them up. Maybe by sending Martin and Koki to one area and Chris and Jimmy and Aviva to a completely different area of the world. While they're separated, Zach probably gets his hands on one or both of the brothers to leave the crew majorly scrambling. This probably gets the gang to make smaller, more temporary creature power suits for themselves, or at least the two that actually try them in the show. Jimmy actually never gets a creature power suit. They probably only get one of the brothers back, probably Chris, so 1, we don't end up copying the reprogrammed AU, and 2, because I think it's way more interesting to see the contrast later. Like how Catra being mind controlled is made even worse because Catra never listens to anyone or does anything formally. Same with Martin. In the start of season 4, I'd imagine the gang is trying to get him back only to find he's in another castle. He's not with Zach anymore, he's with Danita. Why? Because he's been brainwashed, which is something new Zach is experimenting with, so Martin is walking around with no memory as Danita Donata's model. Kinda like something that happens in the real show. Chris and the gang confront him, but he's basically back to his college days. Remember when I said Chris and Martin were both the bad guys in the past? Zach reverted Martin back to his problematic, unethical mindset. Shut up, old me, I have a way better idea. I don't know why I didn't think of it before. Okay, back to the whole Zach doesn't have Martin anymore thing. What if Zach actually lost control of Martin? Like he tried to do something with the creature power suit and it was damaged, and Martin basically became a wild animal for the last however many months, not even recognizing his own brother. Chris and the gang would actually have to treat Martin like a dangerous animal. And I'm not sure how the show would build up to an end. For sure, I think at least one villain would redeem themselves. Maybe Zach, since I've built up to him having used to work with the gang. But I could also see Zach winding up as the main villain. Here are some good ideas from my moons. That is what I call my community, because, well, I'm Jupiter, so my followers would be moons, and I thought that was cute. Anyway, I got stuck and asked for help with my rewrite, and you guys did not disappoint. I Draw SP said, I once saw a comic where some of the less superpowery aspects of the discs were incorporated, like cheetah panic attacks. Maybe add stuff like that? Reaction time could be slower as a certain animal and could be colorblind as a dog? I love that idea. Side effects are definitely a good idea. For example, how if they're in cat form, something comedic that could happen would be them being crepuscular. That's like nocturnal, but how cats tend to be awake at dawn and dusk, and then sleep the rest of the time. Maybe the Kratts would have to fight their instincts just to stay awake. This one's longer, but it goes back to the idea I had with the effects of being in a form too long. Ace of Spades 80 talks about how a possible disease wiped out the animals, and that Viva worked with Zack but then quit. And an idea that the Kratts could permanently have an animal part on them due to transforming too long. A whole bunch of people suggested I keep side effects. Kenny Loves the Thick, great name, suggested that Martin would have permanent gills due to his connection to swimming, and how he'd probably turn into a water-based animal quite a lot. Cartoonish said they didn't think wild Kratt should be associated with the government, and watch this. This is the first Elmushterri rewrite where I actually don't include the government as a villain. So many more moons commented, and I appreciate it so much. So yeah, I think that is all for today. What's my next video? I believe it is going to be rewriting Tears of the Kingdom again, but this time doing it correctly. A lot of people thought my ideas were too loose for what was actually in the game. Otherwise, suggest anything you would like me to rewrite and I'll consider it. But yeah, now that I'm a little older, I've been considering mostly redoing a lot of old stuff. Maybe not like the Rise of the Guardians video, because I think that one's already kind of perfect, but things like the Five Senses people. I feel like Magicians wasn't the best go for them, but yeah, we'll see. Anyway, yeah, thank you for watching. If you liked this video, consider joining my orbit, and if not, then